The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles. And Dom, special episode today. We're going to go through all the feedback that we've received over the last few weeks.
Yeah, this might be a little shorter than a usual episode. You can fix that, though, by leaving a review on the Apple Podcasts app. We got all of those. And, of course, you need to make them all 5 stars, even if you don't like the podcast very much. It just helps us if you like. Basically. Or you can always email us at podcast@chaser.com.au. And, I mean, people text Charles because I still have his number from when he gave it out.
0419 282 188.
That is his actual number.
And I really enjoy receiving those things. And in actual fact, we had a court case recently where they were having to show that the Chaser was culturally significant or something. And one of the pieces of evidence that the barrister brought up for our side was that when we did that Alan Jones thing where we broadcast his personal phone number on the Opera House,
yes,
that he immediately had to change his phone number as a result of that.
And the great thing about his old phone number was he was on 2GB 873 AM in Sydney. And it was something like 04 whatever, 873, 873.
Yeah.
So it was like a very special phone number to him that must have meant an awful lot. However, 2GB then fired him. So really, we were making it easier for him.
We were making it easier
softening
for him.
the blow.
But the funny thing is, the barrister then pointed out that Kerry-Ann Kennelly had also given out my phone number in sort of retribution for this on national television. And that...
Hang on. That's not what happened. What happened was she said, well, how would you like your phone number broadcast on television? And you said, okay, here it is. So you gave your number out.
Well, whatever.
It totally she tried to shame you. And
really?
As she should have known if she'd understood you better.
I'm not very good at reading Kerry-Ann Kennelly.
Yeah, that would have, basically you completely took the opportunity and turned it around. It was very funny.
Anyway, point is that I have never had to change my number because the messages are all delightful. Yeah. And the barrister pointed this out and just going, well, actually, that means something.
Does it?
I don't know.
Has Alan Jones texted you his new number?
No, but we should find it out. If anyone's got Alan Jones's phone number, text it to me on 0419 282 188.
That's very good.
Let's have an ad because we know how much you like ads, and then we'll come back and do some reviews. Okay, so the first one is, at best, extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. That's from Dave from Oz, 777.
Thank you, Dave from Oz. I was trying to work out if it was like a mnemonic or something. Yeah. It's not at all. Extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile.
I think that's a compliment.
I don't take that as a compliment.
I love the next one. Batuta's Chaser Onion.
5 stars.
$4 for no ads is a price.
Worth paying.
Oh, worth paying? Is that what it said? Oh, I don't have that. You've obviously got a better version than me.
I've got a bigger screen than you.
There's only so many times you can listen to Dom and Charles do the same Amazon ad or Dom do the same Better Health ad before you just want to lobotomise yourself.
To be honest, Better Health can help you with that if you do want to lobotomise yourself.
Yeah. Is it on Medicare or is it?
No, it's not. You got to pay, but there's a special deal. You get something % off.
I'm sure you're thinking, sucker, they made you give them $4, but really, when you're comedians, quote unquote, at their age, and they need to resort to Stockholm syndrome to get $4 out of a listener, am I really the one who is losing out here? 10 out of 5 stars would listen again. 110% more Charles Randing required. Are you sure? I didn't write this.
I think that's a theoretical maximum. Yes, I mean, I think it's a fair point that if you have the $4 to throw away on this podcast, you are the winner.
Yes.
You're splashing your cash. In these dark times, the amount of cash you must have spare to give us $4 a month is a lot. And if you wanted to do that, you can subscribe via Apple Podcasts or via Acast Plus, where we also have the absurdly overpriced plan, which is $20 a month for no extra features.
But what we're going to do is, because if you do it through Acast, you get the email.
We get your email.
And we're going to set up a personalised email.
We're just going to email
for the 2 people
who pay $20 a month and just say, hi. Maybe we should have a meetup.
They won't turn up.
We can buy them lunch with their money.
How can we lose money out of this scheme?
Okay, Davey Donger says, hilarious. It at least the 69th best, I think, probably podcast. It cuts the headline off, which is not good. Absolutely hilarious, says Davey Donger, who has high standards, evidently. Was gutted when I first found out they wouldn't be on Triple M anymore. They've made up for it with this podcast, though. Banana Potato. Which makes me think, Charles, that our producer Lee, who kept saying, shut up and play a song, is wrong. What we really needed was just no songs.
And just more of us.
Endless blather.
More of us. Makes me come harder
than coal.
Oh,
you really need extra words. That's from Egregious.
Their deep, sexy voices and penetrating insights make me come harder than ScoMo impersonating a human whilst winking at a lump of coal. A lump of coal, it must be.
That's very
that's
disturbing.
Yeah.
Not just the coming in the section in your window. Just reminded me about Scott Morrison. He's very unkind. I don't appreciate that at all. Next we have Rudely Awoken 106. Perfect for Friday afternoon, says Rudely.
Yes.
Awoken. When your mind is totally dissolved after a hard week, these guys will make you still seem smart by comparison. So that's something, I guess. Yeah, it is. Thank you for that.
We should use that as part of our advertising.
Yes.
If you want to feel smarter, listen to Dom and Charles, who will make you feel smarter by comparison.
I really enjoyed, particularly our last episode where we tried to wrangle sort of neuroscience and free will. It was like philosophy. It was a very, very deep episode.
Yeah.
Or it was as deep as we're capable of, which is...
Yeah, but have you seen the ratings on that episode? It's been like the worst episode ever.
Because we're about as deep as a waiting pool, Charles. I think that's why.
But maybe we should do a spin-off, which is like philosophy, the philosophy
zone.
report.
Yeah. I know what the spin-off that we need, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's in the next review.
Oh, yeah.
Read your recent episodes. This is from All Added Out. It may be time to get Mark Humphries to do the podcast solo for a while, says this person. That's the spin-off we need. Mark Humphries does the same jokes and does them better.
Oh, yeah. So do we script write for him in the background or just...
No, we do our thing as ever. And he and Evan just edit them up and make them better.
Oh, and they do a sort of like a reaction.
A 90-second
Yes.
version of our podcast.
Yes.
Making the same points with a pithier...
Once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, once every 2 weeks.
And everyone at the ABC will go, oh, yes, very droll.
That really confirmed my view of that political event. So the rest of the comment says, most of the topics you are covering are just not hitting the spot from a satire perspective. Also, could you let the listeners know when the ads finish, as I may be missing the funny parts of the content by skipping the ads. And yet...
That's a good gag.
And yet still 5 stars. That's one of the ones that poses the genuine dilemma of whether this person hates us or is just giving us a bit of a comedy roast.
Now, we've sort of run out of... That's enough. Because the rest of them I think we've already covered in previous podcasts, haven't we?
Yeah, the one where people actually laughed at our review of the Barbie movie was interesting. And then the more complaints about the gas ads. So any emails from listeners? We do occasionally get emails to podcast.
Oh, yeah. How do we...
at chaser.com.au.
Usually they're complaints, aren't they?
Often. But it must be hard to tell them from all the complaints about your avocados. Fiona said the world is in trouble and a Mark Humphries podcast will fix everything, or at least not mess it up too much worse. That's true.
Oh, yeah. And
it's not going to make anything worse.
And we haven't done this. There was a suggestion for Welcome to the Future.
Oh, yes.
That one of the listeners sent in, which looks absolutely fantastic. Which is these pods that you can rent in downtown San Francisco that are 4 feet tall, which cost about $1,000 a month to rent.
We should definitely do that. And there's some other things here too. There's a special plastic with fuel as an ingredient. I think we need to do another one of these. We're a bit behind on Welcome to the Future. So this is the separate podcast that we do that's about tech and largely AI. Because Charles and I love that stuff, but we've been a bit too busy to record the extra episodes, so we better get on that. If you come across shitty tech, by the way, please tell us because we're always looking. Podcast at chaser.com.
And also shitty philosophy.
Shitty, yeah, that's true.
None of the medical advice contained in the Chaser Report should legally be considered medical advice. The Chaser Report.
So, no, we should see if we can get Mark Humphries to do it. And what's he doing now? He's about to go touring with you, I know.
He's going touring with me. He's shooting a pilot at the moment. There's another script thing that he's doing that I don't know where it's up to.
Are we meant to say this?
No, probably not.
It's buried in the,
I mean, I think he's very busy.
When you go on touring with him, you should put the hard word on for him to do a podcast. Tell him that he can make it about musicals.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do. He wants to do it about sort of entertainment industry. And
he wants to do it about the most niche, like this person who's spent many years becoming, arguably the most respected satirist in the country.
Yeah.
All he wants to do is stuff about musical theatre.
Yeah, and he wants to do it on a guest-by-guest basis. So it's literally like get all the luminaries from, Australia and around the world and have them on the podcast.
I love that he's gone, I'm finally successful in the extremely niche business that is political satire, that basically probably only 1 in 10 people have any interest in at all.
Yes.
And he's gone, no, it's just too mainstream.
Yeah.
Musical theatre's what I want to do.
Surely musical theatre is more mainstream than political satire.
I don't know. Well, he might find out. I'm sure it'd be a very good podcast. I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd probably get Lin-Manuel Miranda episode 2 and then that'd be it.
But that strikes me, maybe what we should do is convert this podcast into an interview podcast where we get actual good political satirists on.
And get them to do the satire.
Yeah, and we just sit back and count the money.
It's not a bad idea. If you got any bold ideas for the future direction of the podcast.
Like Bassam Yusuf.
Send an email. Yes, well, he has who spoke at the Chaser lecture a few years ago.
We've got his email address.
We should, it's
Should
not a bad
reach
idea.
out.
I do think we should do more interviews. I think more interview-based extra episodes.
Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what, if you've got any suggestions for the podcast whatsoever, either do it through giving us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes and then we'll read it, or email at podcast@chaser.com.au.
We do read those.
Because we should actually, we should innovate, shouldn't we? One thing that I've been looking at, because we write lots of Chaser articles every week for the website, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool / creepy if we got an AI newsreader to read out the articles? But the first thing is the AI newsreaders, you can actually get quite well trained voices, and they have proper intonation, so you can actually say, I'm trying to make this funny, and it sort of gives it a real lilt that makes it quite funny. But the problem is that it exposes all the flaws in how badly written the articles are.
That's so funny.
So you sort of go, actually would have been funnier if he'd said it like that. And suddenly you find yourself half an hour in editing the piece that you thought was perfect because it actually could have been a bit clippier.
That's very funny. So it would actually be more work rather than less work.
But I was thinking what we could do is we could actually take a news article and put that at the front of each episode. Because we used to do that with the format where we had news headlines. We could do that again. But instead of employing someone, we could just replace them with a robot.
You could. I mean, possibly a little insensitive to people who might have worked with us in that role previously. There is actually a new station called Disrupt Radio where they've got an AI to do the news reading.
Pipped at the post.
And the fascinating thing about that, which I really like, I recently saw them on LinkedIn, someone from Disrupt Radio, saying that they were #1 in entrepreneurial talk radio.
Yes. Oh, we've got to do an entrepreneurial podcast. Do you do TikTok at all?
No, not really.
There's a great account called Entrepreneur.
I was going to make the opposite point, actually, which is that, and they've said that they're #1 entrepreneurial talk radio. Surely there's nothing else. There is no other entrepreneurial talk radio in the market, right? So you just got to define your niche narrowly enough. Actually, we get more listeners a week than they do, would you believe? They have an entire radio station.
That is fucking hilarious. They've got a radio station.
I think there's 24,000 weekly listeners. I mean, kudos to them. They're starting something new.
Yeah.
But, so we're #1 in daily, half-assed satire, loosely satirical podcast.
So there's a TikTok account which is inspirational TikToks about entrepreneurialism. So I'll just play you one for the listeners. And it's the DuPont method. It's run by this guy called DuPont. And
I've heard of his chemicals company.
Royce DuPont is his name. And he has a whole lot of management theory. I'll just play you one.
Having a good mentor is critical. Who are my mentors? Carnegie, Rockefeller, the Wright brothers. But Royce, those guys are dead. You can't get advice from them. Or can I?
And then he kills himself. Everything about it is this sort of bro masculine.
But is it self-parody?
It's self-parody. It's complete parody.
That's
it's just wonderful.
So there are good people doing satire out there today. Go and listen to them instead of
we
us.
should get them to do a podcast. They'd be the #1 in satirical entrepreneurial talkback.
That's great. Catch you next time. Our gears from Road, we're part of the Iconoclast Network. And do send your ratings, suggestions, whatever. We actually read them all, and we do appreciate them.
Yeah, and we've got to come back bigger, stronger, better in 2024.
2024. It's going to be our year.
It's going to be, that's going to be the year everyone goes, whatever happened to Dom and Charles?